yet. All right, we're good to go.
Okay, I'll wait till the dinging subsides. All right, good afternoon. My name is Sally Talberg. I'm chairman of the Michigan Public Service Commission. I call this special meeting of the commission to order on April 22nd, 2020 at 2:30 p.m. This is a special meeting because it was not on our annual regular commission meeting calendar that is posted in January. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Talberg.
Present.
Commissioner Scripps.
Present.
Commissioner Phillips.
Present.
Madam Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's continued patience as we navigate. This is our second fully remote commission meeting. We had one last week, and I want to thank our dedicated staff at the commission, as well as Commissioner Scripps and Phillips for making the first one go so smoothly. I think my husband crawling in behind me to get my daughter's phone was our only glitch. So I appreciate all the work that goes into that. Technology is incredible, but there's always the potential for glitches. So I just want to reiterate a Twitter statement from Michigan Supreme Court Chief Justice Bridget McCormick about the court's video conferencing proceedings. They've been moving a lot of the proceedings to remote capabilities. And she said, "We will make mistakes. It won't be perfectly smooth. That's okay." So that's our motto here at the commission as well. As we did with our last meeting, we're holding this using Microsoft Live Event. You're familiar with the Teams platform. It's part of that package. It is compatible with all browsers except for Safari. So if you're having difficulty and trying to use it through Safari, try a different browser such as Chrome or Explorer. Telephone relay service is also available through the phone option, and the information for that is available on the notice and the agenda. The mechanics are a little tedious for those of you that didn't join us last week in terms of calling out commissioner names before speaking, but that's intentional to support those listening only by phone or using the relay service. You know who's talking. As I indicated in terms of the notice for today's meeting, if we lose connection, the commission will be considered in recess. We'll try to reestablish a connection, but if we're unable to do so within 30 minutes, we'll adjourn, and decisions made prior to a disconnection will be binding. Other business will be handled at a future meeting. We will not recess or adjourn due to technical issues experienced by individual members of the public. The meeting will, however, be recorded and available for future reference on the commission's website. And in addition, the commissioners can receive comment directly by sending an email to MPSC_commissioners, plural, commissioners at michigan.gov, and that email address is also in the meeting notice for today. And I think we may have it up in the Q&A feature in the live stream as well. We'll have an opportunity for the public to make comment as provided in the agenda. We just have one item on the agenda today. Just a few notes about this. As a reminder, the public comment is for commissioners to listen to comments and concerns from the public and not to answer specific questions. Comments can be made verbally by calling in, or you can make them in writing using the live stream Q&A feature, and I'll give a little bit more detail on how to do that going forward. If you're participating using the Teams application, you can go ahead and type in the Q&A feature at any time during our meeting, and then we'll have those queued up to read when we get to the public comment. And if you would like to make verbal comments, you must do that by phone. So dial in using the number on the agenda. And finally, I'll just note that to minimize disruptions, attendees are also muted until we reach the time for public comment. So with that introduction, our first order of business is approval of the amended agenda for today's meeting, and I'll recognize Commissioner Scripps.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for the approval of the amended agenda for today's commission meeting.
Commissioner Phillips?
I second the approval.
Is there any discussion? All right, we'll have a roll call vote on the motion to approve the agenda. Commissioner Scripps?
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
I also vote in favor of the motion. The motion carries by unanimous vote and the agenda is approved. Today, the commission is assisted by Staff Attorney Blair Renfro, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Renfro to tee up our item.
Item 2A1 is case number U-20763, which involves an application by Enbridge Energy Limited Partnership pursuant to Act 16 of 1929, requesting that the commission grant Enbridge the authority for its project described by the company as the Straits Line 5 replacement segment. In the alternative, Enbridge seeks a declaratory ruling that it already has the requisite authority from the commission to construct the project that is the subject of the application. The order before you establishes a public comment period regarding the request for a declaratory ruling and places the Act 16 application in abeyance pending a decision on the request for a declaratory ruling.
Thank you, Blair. All right, I'll recognize Commissioner Scripps for a motion.
I move for the approval of the order in case number U-20763.
And Commissioner Phillips.
I second the motion.
Before we proceed with the vote, I want to provide a little context for this order. Enbridge has been planning a project to replace the segment of Line 5 that crosses the Straits of Mackinac, and this has been had a lot of media attention over the last couple of years. As Mr. Renfro noted, Enbridge filed with the Public Service Commission under Public Act 16 of 1929, which grants siting authority to the Commission for oil and petroleum pipelines. The original pipeline was cited and approved by the Public Service Commission in 1953, and in an application filed with the Commission just this last Friday, April 17th, Enbridge seeks a new Act 16 siting approval to replace the pipeline and relocate the segment in a tunnel under the Straits. In the alternative, Enbridge requests a declaratory ruling from the Commission that Act 16 approval is not required in order to construct this pipeline replacement project. Enbridge's request for a declaratory ruling is a threshold legal issue of significant public interest, and so therefore the Commission wanted to move quickly to put this out for comment so that we could get additional feedback on this question concerning the applicability of Act 16. Anyone can file comments. You do have to file to become a formal party to the case, but we are specifically seeking legal analysis on the question at hand. And there are instructions for submitting comments included in the order as well as our press release that will go out after our commission meeting today. To avoid parties spending time and resources litigating the Act 16 contested case before the commission, while this issue is outstanding, the commission is holding the Act 16 application in abeyance. If we grant, so just in terms of next steps, after taking the comment, the commission, if we grant the request for declaratory ruling, no further proceedings would occur at the commission. Conversely, if we deny the request for declaratory ruling, the commission would initiate the contested case process, first starting with requiring Enbridge to publish formal public notice and setting a pre-hearing conference with a deadline for interested persons to file requests to intervene. Finally, I want to spread the word that the MPSC has launched a dedicated website. It's michigan.gov/MPSC line 5. There's also a link available from our homepage to enable the public to monitor public notice and setting a free. Are others getting a feedback loop?
Someone joined and was listening.
Oh.
I took care of them.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, in the background, there's the lag. Sorry about that. So this website, michigan.gov, MPSC line 5, it's available, it's live, we'll continue to update it. It has information, including the application there from Enbridge that they filed on Friday. We'll include today's order, the press release, and other information as it becomes available. A few other items to note for the public and those that are interested organizations on this issue. So first, we developed and have available on the website a 2-page document. It explains the MPSC siting authority under Act 16 and opportunities for the public to participate. Second, we've created a Line 5 email listserv for anyone to sign up for email updates from the Commission. This will include meeting notices, press releases, orders, and other major developments specific to Line 5 issues before the Commission. Just make it easier so you're not having to check on a daily basis what's happening. And to sign up, go to the bottom of the Line 5 webpage that I mentioned and enter your email. And then third, I also want people to be aware that there's an option to be notified of all the filings in the docket and follow the case in our eDocket system. There's instructions on the website, but to summarize, go to the main eDockets page. There's a tab in the upper right-hand corner, enter case number 20763, and then click on the box that says notify me of new approved filings. If you select this feature, you'll receive an email when filings are made. They come in, 1 a.m.-ish for the prior day's filings. And this is very different than getting the updates through the listserv. And there could be a large number of filings that come in on a daily basis in the eDocket system. Between the eDocket system and the new dedicated web page, I just want to assure everyone that the application and all non-confidential filings in the case, including comments received, are accessible from our website. We were one of the first commissions in the country to go to an electronic docket system over 20 years ago to increase transparency, and we're now in our second generation. Our Madam Secretary, Lisa Felice, is a big part of that, including this new feature to get email notifications. So appreciate their work and all the staff's work to get these materials up and running. You can also follow us on Twitter at Michigan PSC. So with that, I think both Commissioner Scripps and Commissioner Phillips wanted to make a few brief remarks as well. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Scripps.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To start, I want to thank our staff for their quick work in preparing this case and today's special meeting. The approach outlined today has a number of important advantages. First, by taking on the question of whether a permit under Act 16 is even needed for the proposed project, we can focus on this threshold legal question, and by addressing it, add greater certainty to the proceeding. Second, if we find that a permit is not needed, then we will have spared all parties the cost of intervening and beginning a full contested case process when there is no need to do so. And finally, if we determine that a permit is indeed needed, by holding the substance of the case in abeyance until the threshold issues are resolved, we provide more time for potential parties and interested persons to review the application and consider whether and how best to participate. And of course, if the case goes forward, there will be a number of ways for the public to participate, from formal intervention in the proceeding, to participating at public meetings, to submitting comments to the docket. More detail around such opportunities will be shared if we find that an Act 16 permit is needed for this project and a full contested case is required. At the end of this, I'm confident we will have greater certainty around the underlying legal issues, and if a permit is needed, a more robust record on which to rely. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner, thank you, Commissioner Scripps. Commissioner Phillips?
I would just like to quickly and once again thank our staff and thank Chair Talberg for your leadership in helping to create a really robust pathways for the community and for stakeholders to participate in this and any forthcoming proceedings. In December of 2018, the Michigan Pipeline Safety Advisory Board put forth a number of recommendations on how the commission can have a more robust methodology for encouraging public participation. That included promoting public awareness, improving notice requirements, and improving tribal consultation. I'm happy to say that we adopted all of those recommendations in this case, and I just want to thank our communications team for really their great effort in pulling this together on a pretty tight timeline. Thank you.
Thank you. And as we move forward, we'll continue to learn from this, and it'll also make us better for the next time around when we have subsequent citing cases as well. We'll go ahead with a vote then. Commissioner Scripps?
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
And I also vote in favor of the motion. The motion carries by unanimous vote, and the order in case number U20763 is approved. All right, now we've reached the time reserved for the members of the public to address the commission. Again, if you'd like to make comment and have access to the Teams live stream Q&A on your computer, please enter your name and I'll read the comment for you. I do see one, maybe a couple questions so far. This feature, if you're having trouble finding it, there's a bar that has different functions including the mute button, and it's on the right-hand side, right next to the mute button, a little box that has a question mark in it. Click on that Q&A feature and then enter your information. And after taking comments through this feature, we'll open it up to the phone line for those who called into the meeting and would like to address the commission verbally. So I will queue up verbal comments if you want to enter your name and you're on the phone, but also have access to the live stream Q&A. You can put your name in there and just indicate that you'd like to make a verbal comment, and we'll call on you in the order received. So just a couple other reminders about the public comment. Please note that you can only make verbal comments by calling into the meeting, and when it's your turn to speak, press *6 on your phone to unmute. And as a reminder, this is to hear from you. You can, pose your comments as questions for us, and we'll take that under consideration, but we're not here to answer them at today's meeting, but we can always follow up in writing. Also, when providing comment, please, we just ask that you indicate your name and where you live if you're willing to share that with us, so we have complete records. And finally, we just ask you to keep your comments brief. Try to stick around 3 minutes. Madam Secretary Lisa Felice will also help keep us on time, but the idea is just to make the opportunity available for everyone that wants to make comment to be able to do so today. And so with that, I will start with the comments that are published in the Q&A feature. So the first one, and I apologize for if I mess up pronouncing names, Jeannie or Jean Sekeli. And the comment is, during this current COVID-19 crisis, as it seriously impacts Michigan, it is no time to rush through permits for an International Energy Transport Corporation. Enbridge has violated the 1973 easement agreement with the state of Michigan and therefore requires the public look over its shoulder step by step. I ask that you make Enbridge respectfully wait their turn as other acute Michigan priorities are resolved, and until the time when the Michigan public can again safely gather and debate the wisdom of Enbridge's proposal more thoroughly. Thank you. All right. So I have several names about using the phone line. So we'll turn to that. If we can open the phone lines, and again, to hit *6, and we'll start with Lisa Petrell. Lisa, are you there? Again,
open the phone lines, and again, to hit *6, and we'll start with Lisa Petrell.
Lisa, are you with us?
Lisa, are you there? Again, open the phone lines, and again, to hit *6, and we'll start with Lisa Petrell. Lisa, are you with us? Lisa, are you there?
Lisa, we're having a difficult time hearing you if you're on. You will need to call in, not speak through the microphone on your computer, but to call in with the number on the agenda. So we can circle back around and see if you're available in a couple minutes. So we'll move next to Kay. And she asked, can you one more time summarize what it means that you just voted for in favor of this order? So I would encourage you to check the press release. That's a nice summary of the order and also the order itself that'll be available at michigan.gov/MPSC line 5. But the gist of it is that we're asking for comments on a declaratory ruling request from Enbridge. So next up we have Shannon. And reminder to hit *6.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Hi, Shannon.
Okay. Hi, I'm Shannon Donnelly. I live in Grand Haven, right along the Lake Michigan lakeshore, and I'm opposed to that application U20763 to replace and locate the segment of Line 5 crossing the straits. Regardless of the case and the rules and regulations, this application is frivolous and an imminent danger to the Great Lakes and Great Lakes region in its entirety. I don't even feel it should be a discussion. The governor's nonpartisan UP task force just published the draft of its findings regarding the tunnel, and there were 14 points against it outlined in the report. And I'm assuming that it's on the governor's desk right now. So in the future, it seems it's following the recommendations and stopping Enbridge from its unobstructed march towards Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, inland waterways, and billion-dollar destruction of the crown jewel in Michigan's natural resources makes sense. While the governor is trying to keep the citizens of the state protected from a life-threatening illness and maintaining the safety of the constituents, many people are in this virtual meeting trying to protect the land, and in this instance, the water from marauders in the guise of a responsible company. This application for authority is another ploy for Enbridge to get their way, do whatever they want, while the state is looking the other way. And what audacity it is to have them doing this while the governor isn't looking. It's as if the teacher stepped out of the classroom for a minute and the class is taking liberties while the teacher is out. The application should be denied once and for all. Members of the committee, you've been home in quarantine for over 30 days. Hopefully during this time, you've had the opportunity to smell fresh air and walk along a local body of water. You may have even gotten a chance to stop at look at some part of a sparkling watershed. Rather than politics, rather than power, clout, the commission itself, I beg you to think about the loss of such sites as these. And this application is a chance to stop the madness, rethink our choices, and reassert that we have value of the waterways in our state. This is going to be a contested case, and I don't think that this permit is needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate your feedback. Okay, I'm scrolling down to see. We have a comment by email. If someone could enter that into the public record from Elizabeth Benye from Calumet, Michigan. So we will certainly do that. Thank you. Ann Wywody is next, and her comment is submitted through the live Q&A feature, so I will read it. Ann indicates the MPSC notice for this hearing was only 5 days, including 2 weekend days in advance. This is not sufficient public notice. Please assure that sufficient notice is given at least 30 days to allow the public to have time to digest complex materials and provide substantive input. Thank you. Next up is Sean Gampa. And the comment is, could you please postpone this proposal? Is it possible? Many of us stakeholders did not know that the proposal submitted on behalf of Enbridge was being decided on until just recently. And I think, as you know, we discussed in the meeting, we are not deciding on this proposal today. It's at the very early stage, and we're simply seeking comment on a legal question. Next up, we have Mary Pelton Cooper, and she was asking about how will the UP task force report be incorporated into this process. Shannon's observing there's a lag between the live feed and the phone, and we do recognize that. For those of you on the phone, when you go on unmute to speak, if you do also have the speaker on your computer watching that way, just try to mute that so you avoid the background with that lag. And now I'll turn to Lisa Petrell again. If you want to hit *6, and we'll see if we can get you back.
Madam Chairman, this is Lisa Felice, and I have Lisa on the phone. right
Okay.
now. She was unable to connect the other way. If you get back to, gotta get my phone here. Or get her back on the phone. Lisa? Lisa? Okay, the chairman is ready for your comments. I'm gonna go ahead and relay them to her. No, you're on my phone. You're not on the computer. So go ahead and let me know what your comments are, and I will relay that to the commission. Actually, I'll get you off the phone, and I'll actually get you my email address, and we'll make sure that those are submitted. All right, thank you. Madam Chairman, Lisa Bottrell is actually going to submit an email with her comments on there. They're about a half a page, so I told her that she would be able to submit them that way.
Okay, excellent. That'll be helpful. All right, next up we have Kathleen Brossemer. And again, I'm sorry if I'm messing up names. And Kathleen is the environmental director with the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians. And she indicates that the Sioux Tribe strongly disagrees that existing Public Act 16 siting approval for the twin pipelines is sufficient for the proposed tunnel project. This request is astounding, and it's given Enbridge's track record of easement violations and of misleading various government agencies regarding its existing pipelines. Its new proposal must be subject to extensive scrutiny over the need for the project, especially given the fall in oil demand and the need to convert to a low carbon economy. All right, thank you, Kathleen. Alicia F. asked what tribal nations were consulted and did they all agree to approve this proposal? Mary Pelton Cooper indicates that the UP task force has not finished its work. Why is this process going forward? How will potential leaks at Cut River be resolved? And next up, this is all very helpful as we get your feedback and your questions. It can help us anticipate what to address through our website and Q&A and other methods. Next up, we have Sean McBrady, who wants to make a comment as well. So if you want to hit *6, Sean, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Talbert. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you very much for attempting to have as robust a public engagement on this as necessary. Especially during this critical time with the COVID pandemic. I am the Legislative and Policy Director for Clean Water Action and also the Campaign Coordinator for Oil and Water Don't Mix. And we intend to submit some robust comments as this process moves on. For today, I just wanted to make sure to thank you all for taking your role in protecting the public during this very seriously through this controversial process, and encourage you to make sure that there will be robust public engagement on this. We know that as hard as we try, online meetings can be clunky, and they also are kind of exclusionary for a lot of residents, especially in rural areas that could be impacted by this pipeline and do not have adequate access to broadband. I just also wanted to highlight the importance of public engagement there, hoping that we can actually have some public engagement in this process, assuming a full contested case moves forward, that we have public comment and actual public hearings throughout the state for people to understand where the commission is and what sort of the role they're playing in this process. I just wanted to highlight as well that this decision does need to be fully examined, we believe, and the MPSC definitely should not act in haste on this. It's a very critical decision to make, and you all play a very serious role in protecting Michigan residents and our ability to engage in this process. So as we move forward, please keep that in mind, and thank you again for your work.
Thank you. All right, and next up we have Senator Jeff Irwin. Do you want to make a comment, Senator? Hit *6. Maybe just making an appearance. We can also circle back. All right, so next up we have William Toms, and his comment is the scientific consensus is that we have 10 years to shift away from fossil fuel use and face an unprecedented environmental catastrophe, not just in Michigan, but around the globe. Untold people will suffer if applications like these are allowed to move forward through your regulatory process. The company in question, Enbridge, has spilled more than 1.2 million gallons of oil already into the Kalamazoo River. Those of us who lack the procedural knowledge of your regulatory system have to use every tool at our disposal to get your attention. So you'll have to forgive us if we're not opposing this in the quote unquote right way, or if we're not making comments specific to the legal proposal, but it's our lives on the line. We need your help in this fight against the egregious abuse of regulatory procedure by Enbridge. Thank you, William. And next we have Andrew Nowicki, and he indicates that the original permit issued in 1953 was made under vastly different circumstances than today. We are undergoing a climate crisis that poses an existential threat to most life on the planet and threatens to drop the national GDP by over 20%. The fuels transported by the Canadian pipeline under the Great Lakes are directly responsible for this national crisis. A new technology must be required using modern technology and a thorough environmental impact review that accounts for potential climate damages. Thank you, Andrew. Next up, we have Aubrey. I need my French lesson here. Sorry, I'm more of a dabble in Spanish. Macau Leduc. And I apologize for that. So Aubrey indicates, and she's the environmental specialist with Bay Mills Indian Community. And her comment is, for years, Bay Mills has asked the state of Michigan to provide information on the condition of the inland portions of Line 5, especially at water crossings and where the line comes in close proximity to the Great Lakes, i.e. the stretch from St. Ignace to Rapid River. Approving this application without full environmental review or full knowledge of the condition of Line 5 within Michigan blindly perpetuates the risk that Line 5 poses to hundreds of Michigan's aquatic ecosystems. The Enbridge's environmental impact report considers all environmental impacts as either negligible or pre-existing from previous work. This contradicts the Supplemental Alternative Analysis and Minimization of Impacts Report, or AAMIR. This report states that there will be permanent wetland impacts and that 3 federally threatened species will likely be adversely affected. The EIR, the Environmental Impact Report, says no additional wetland impacts are expected as a result of pipeline construction. And that's quoting the Enbridge report. Threatened or endangered species are never mentioned in the EIR. Instead, many pages of the EIR discuss the importance of Line 5, the scope of MPSC's review of the project, and even local government and stakeholder resolutions that favor the project. Sadly, the EIR is misleading in its review. Tunnel construction and pipeline placement are not mutually exclusive. Enbridge can't hide its wetland and threatened species impacts from the MPSC simply because the tunnel construction already caused the disturbances. Thank you, Aubrey. Next up, we have David Holtz, and he indicates this virtual public comment process today is nice try, but unfortunately direct evidence of the shortcomings of having to confine public input to telephone lines and computers. Thank you, David. This is the start. We do have a number of different activities planned, including public hearings near the project itself. Should the COVID crisis make that possible. One thing I would note is that our contested case process is very lengthy, about a year time. And so that does give us a little more time to be able to plan an event for in-person participation by commissioners and the public. Next up is a question from Shannon, who is financially responsible for verifying Enbridge's financial viability. Oh, we also have a comment from Senator McBroom that he's on and would like to make a comment. So we'll open up the phone line to him. And Senator, welcome if you want to hit *6. Michigan's aquatic ecosystem. The Enbridge's environmental impact report considers all. And Senator, if you could, yep, you got it, I think, on the computer.
I'm here.
Welcome.
The voiceover cut off the last couple of things you were saying to me, so could you reiterate that?
Oh, I just was saying welcome to you, and we have you teed up to make comment. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, when you unmute, the lady talks at you, and then you can't hear what the other people are saying. Sorry.
Okay.
Well, I first just want to thank the commission for setting this up and offering this opportunity this way. You know, I think that in some regards, it may even provide additional opportunity for the comments to be made that wouldn't have been had in a more traditional setting. And I respect that you're still having a lot of other opportunities coming forward too, and you have email and others. So thank you for all of your efforts on that. I guess I'd like to comment that, you know, the Public Service Commission's got a critical role in protecting all the citizens of Michigan's access to energy. And I believe that needs to remain the primary focus of the agency, is the safe, affordable access to energy. And I believe Line 5 continues to play an absolutely vital role in that availability. And it's going to for the foreseeable future. And that we can't risk that access to residents based on fears or conjecture of what the future of oil is going to be, the future of energy provisions are going to be. Right now, this is our source of energy. And we're all very well aware, and I've spoken frequently on the propane issues for the UP, but Line 5 is providing far more energy for the UP than just through propane. And so we see this recent study come out, and it doesn't even deny the need for propane. It just says, well, there's some other possible ways to get it here, all of which are going to require the legislature to expend enormous amounts of additional taxpayer resources to provide. And yet the legislature has already spoken. We've already done our duty, and the Constitution of this state tells us that the legislature is the body that speaks this way, the representatives of the people. And so it has acted, it has moved forward, and I would encourage us to continue to allow this process to move forward as quickly as possible. If the sincere desire of anyone is to see the active lines removed from the bottom of the lake, then the quickest way we can get that done is to get this tunnel project moving as quickly as possible, approve of moving the lines into that tunnel, and move on with life. And to delay that, I think, continues to be a major conflict between those who have a disingenuous purpose to asking for further delay, who ultimately simply want to see forcing the economy away from oil and wishing on a star that there'll be some other alternative available for us at the end of that tunnel, metaphorically, tunnel I'm speaking of. So thank you very much for your time today and for putting this together. But I encourage you to not delay this application any more than is legally necessary. Let's move on and get this project underway for all the citizens of the state of Michigan's benefit.
Thank you, Senator. All right, I'll read a comment, and then we have another call on the line. Well, and this is from Bay Mills Indian Community. While we are operating under a state of emergency and stay-at-home executive order, Bay Mills Indian Community is in absolutely no position to review and provide substantive comment on any permit application submitted by Enbridge regarding the siting and construction of its long-discussed pipeline tunnel underlying the Straits of Mackinac. The Line 5 pipeline and its impact to our treaty-protected resources have long been a top concern for the tribe, and we have expressed our views on how to mitigate its adverse impacts to Michigan's regulatory agencies and elected officials for years. I'm writing on behalf of Bay Mills Indian Community to request an emergency stay of the state's administrative review of any permit applications regarding Enbridge's Line 5 tunnel project in order to allow both state agencies and the tribe to carefully, thoroughly, and appropriately review Enbridge's massive submission of data and technical reports. By filing its applications now, Enbridge is seeking to use a global pandemic to its advantage by avoiding rigorous review and meaningful public comment. Thank you. All right, and next up we have Representative Sarah Kimbenzi is on the line. If you want to go ahead, Representative, welcome. And you can hit *6.
Thank you very much. I'll keep my comments brief. I just want to thank you for allowing so many ways for the public to be part of this. It is important that we have their feedback and just understanding that we're at the very beginning of this. We're at least a year out from when a decision will be made, and that should give the public enough time, to get their comments in. I would like to kind of continue on what Senator McBroom said, and that is that as legislators, the Public Service Commission is charged with looking at long-term affordable energy rates, access to energy, whereas the legislature has to balance, the decisions made by the Public Service Commission. We have to balance the financial costs that would go into alternative plans, as well as, what is going on in other states and even internationally, how we interact and react to what other countries are doing that we border and certainly share those resources with. So when we looked as UP legislators at the draft that came out from the UP Energy Task Force, it left out that financial piece. And as we're going through it, I can tell you that some of the recommendations that charge the legislature to explore or look at, certain revenue streams that we have in the state, certain ways to loosen restrictions or to actually enter into private markets and take on that responsibility. Some of these accounts that charge us to look at a $500 million project or more with rail, we're spending $2 million a year because that's literally all the money that we have to put towards rail. And most of it goes to Southeast Michigan to relieve some of that congestion. When we look at, should we as a state enter into the private market and actually control propane or control another energy source, we have to look at those resources to employ people, to manage those systems. And as everyone knows, as we go through this COVID-19 case and revenue is lost through sales tax, income tax, all of that stuff, we're already embracing, at least for next year's budget, major deficits where we have to make some really critical decisions, that a lot of people don't think about and don't think about how we have to place, whether it's the pipeline or any other piece of infrastructure in the state, we have to put in way all of these other mechanisms that we make decisions about.